5, 4. You're in to Chicago's most popular college music radio station. 89.3 is WKKC. This is Focus Talk, the thought-provoking, solution-oriented talk show daring to make a difference in our communities. We're talking on a regular basis because the answers really matter. What are we talking about? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're talking about politics, religion, personal development, history, music, and then from time to time, we are spotlighting positive people who are doing positive things right here in the Inglewood community, throughout the Chicagoland area, as well as the continental United States. I'm your host, Dennis Snipe. Joining me in the studio today is Doc Illah. Doc, how are you, sir?
Outstanding, Dennis. How are you, man?
I am well. Now, Doc, you're no stranger to the roster of Focus Talk, so we welcome you back. And you are a master of many different things. You're a performer, you're a writer, you're a mentor, you're a lot of different things. So how did everything get started for you? How did you become so talented, or how can I say so versed in so many different areas?
Well, I come from the old school, and in the old school, if you failed at one thing, you tried something else.
Okay.
So, I failed at a few things. However, I tried many things, and the more things I tried, the more things I loved. And there were certain things that just honed in and locked in. And, coming up on the west side of Chicago, it helped to develop all the things that I do. When you think about the music for me started about the same time as rapping, rapping and the dancing. You had break dancing and pop locking, all of those things kicked in. And while one was happening, I was figuring out that I was good at one, and I was like, well, wait a minute, I can do that too. So they just kind of, they kind of gelled, and everything just started to build itself. When you think about the mentoring, all you have to do is look at where I came from. I came from a really rough neighborhood, and when you see what's going on with the youth, man, it made me want to help those that I saw in trouble, simply because sometimes I didn't have that help.
Right.
So when you see a young man or woman out there struggling, you want to help them. You want to show them different, because a lot of our youth think that there's a level of hopelessness. That's what it feels like in the street. Sometimes when you're just riding down the street, it just feels like hopelessness. And I have to do what I have to do to make a change to that, because, I fought in the military, and I figure if I fought for the country, I can fight for the children.
Okay. All right. Now, that's very interesting to me, just the whole military piece. Now, how did you end up in the military?
That's interesting. That's actually a funny story. I was about to graduate high school, and at the time, I went to high school in Georgia. I left here, Chicago, in the early 80s, and moved down south. And my mother didn't know it at the time. We had went down to Georgia for a vacation. And she didn't know that while I was going to school on the west side of Marshall, that I had been in two incidences where I was standing next to the guy that got shot.
Wow.
So when I went to Georgia, I was like, this might be a good move, because third time is a charm. Plus, I saw this girl I liked too. That was part of it. So, I was like, let's take a shot. She was fine. She was like Janet Jackson. But that's a whole nother story. But I ended up going to school down there, and man, that was a major thing for me. That's what that is.
Okay. All right. So it was basically you getting away from what was going on in the city.
Yes, because the violence and the gang banging had really started to kick in at that time, and I was like, I'm not about to be a gang banger for sure. And if I can go down south and escape this, that's a good move for me. So getting back to the part where you said, how did I get into the military? Basically, I was about to graduate high school, and I had taken the entrance exams for colleges. So I was going to go to school to be an electrical dude, house wiring, because I took electromechanics. So when they came back to review our scores, they were like, we can't put you in an electrical house wiring program.
Why not?
They told me my scores were too high. They said my math scores were off the charts. They said we need a brain like yours in technology. So I was like, okay, cool. But then I thought about it. I was like, I don't have any money. I'm not going to ask my parents because I come up in the Cooley High area, in the Cooley High era, when, preacher said, well, mom almost 18 and, it's time for me to get out on my own. That's the mindset that I had, that, I'm grown, so I have to be on my own, so I have to be able to fend for myself. So I was thinking to myself, okay, how do I pay for college? At a certain point, I had taken the ASVAB, and this recruiter was calling my house every day. So I told the lady one day, I said, listen, if you stop calling my house, I will come down and listen to what you have to say and possibly sign up. So she stopped calling. I went up to Columbus, Georgia, and I sat down and they showed me this film that made the military look absolutely fantastic. So I signed up and I said, okay, I'll be able to pay for my own college. And needless to say, I never made it to college. But man, I ended up doing 26 years in the military.
26 years?
Yes.
Wow. So you are a staunch military man.
Man, most of my life was spent in the military.
Okay.
I fought in a couple of wars, and but I have no regrets, none whatsoever.
Based on the fact that you being a staunch military man, what is your take on the whole flag thing at this particular time?
Ooh, that's a hot topic. The flag thing. You care to elaborate on that? Because that's a wide open subject, and you can go so many ways with it.
Right. So we look at the NFL, and let's start with Colin Kaepernick.
Okay.
And him protesting by taking a knee. And so, do you agree with the stance? Do you disagree? Do you think that the political aspect in sports shouldn't mix? Do you agree with our president? And whereas that those who take a knee in protest should be fired?
Well, and this is just me, and this is as a person who is a veteran who has fought in 2 wars. I fought for the right for you to be able to protest and do whatever it is you do. We actually have freedom of speech, freedom, the right to assemble, and everything. And that's the whole thing about America. It's supposed to be the greatest place on earth because of the freedoms that we have.
Right.
And the freedoms are what I fought for. So, with that being said, if Colin Kaepernick feels a need to protest based on the fact he feels that something isn't right, then he has that right. I fought for that right, so he should absolutely be able to do it. He isn't breaking any laws. He isn't harming anybody. I don't feel it's a disrespect whatsoever. I hear people say that it's disrespectful to the soldiers. No, it's not. We fought for those freedoms, so exercise your freedoms because I fought for them. If I don't have a problem with it, why should those who never put on a uniform have a problem with it?
Okay. Now, there are some who are protesting, who are not watching NFL, who are not supporting games, VFWs, who are not turning it on at all because they say it's a disrespect. They say that they've gone too far with it and that it shouldn't even be in conversation.
Well, for those people, I mean, you have the right not to watch if you don't want to. So again, the freedoms say that we have a freedom to do what we want to do here. And if you decide that you don't want to watch, that is absolutely your right. My thing is, nobody should be forced to do anything because of what somebody else feels, because then there's no freedom associated with that. There is no freedom associated with that. You're being basically bullied because you're being told that you have to feel a certain way. what's the whole freedom thing if you're being forced to do something against your will? That's oxymoronic to me.
So, Doc, let me ask you this. How do you think it should be solved? Or what would your suggestion be?
My suggestion would be for everybody to not be so uptight. I think we have too many uptight people here. I mean, it is what it is. A lot of people have a problem with the fact, well, let's look at it like this. You have two different angles. You have those who Colin Kaepernick was being a voice for, the voice of the abused, the voice of the little man, and he was speaking for those who couldn't speak for themselves. Then you have the people who are the privileged people who don't understand that. And what you have is, you have the same thing everybody's watching, but based on experience from each side, one can't understand the other one's position. It's like, how can you not feel my pain? You can't feel my pain because you've never experienced it. And the other side, well, why do you feel that way? I mean, and they don't understand because they've never been deprived of anything. So until we can sit down and actually have a real conversation, and when I say conversation, I mean where we talk and the other party is listening and not just waiting for you to stop words coming from your mouth so they can speak their piece. People aren't listening. That's what the problem is. We have to learn how to communicate effectively, and then we can bring about some change, because otherwise it's going to be it's like a seesaw. One person's up, the other one's down, and it's just back and forth. There is no even keel there.
Okay. All right. So now, now what about our illustrious president, who has gotten involved in a particular situation that I think that there are some other things that he could be doing, as opposed to commenting on football and how individuals are not treating the game fairly or in a manner that it should be dealt with?
Well, being that I am a retired military person and I swore an oath when I joined the military, and I still carry myself as if I wear the uniform, I therefore don't even speak on that particular thing, because when you're talking about the commander-in-chief, again, I walk as if I still have the uniform on and I'm held to a certain standard. I gave you my opinion on the situation, but when it talks about the individual itself, I pretty much stay clear of that one.
Okay.
I can't make a recommendation on what the commander-in-chief should or should not do.
Okay. All right. Well said. Well said. Now, Doc Illah, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk about what I invited you to talk about, and that was music.
All right. Sounds like a winner.
We've been talking about political issues and current events, and we kind of steered away from what we were going to talk about, but we'll be back in just a moment with more Focus Talk right here on Chicago's #1 college radio station, 89.3 WKKC.
You're watching Focus Talk TV with your host, Dennis Snipe.
I didn't want to let that go.
That was heavy, dude. I was like, oh,
I didn't want to let that go at all. And there was no way for me to come back and be like, okay, let's talk about music now.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm sorry, Joe.
Hi, this is Dennis Snipe, host of the thought-provoking, solution-oriented talk show, daring to make a difference in our communities, entitled Focus Talk. And I'm looking for you to be the next featured guest on Focus Talk. If you're an entrepreneur, an author, community-based organization, artist, or if you're simply daring to make a difference in your community, I need to hear from you. Here's what I need you to do. Send an email to dennis@dennissnipe.com with your name, brief description of what you do, contact number, and why you should be a guest on Focus Talk. I look forward to hearing from you soon. In the meantime, please continue to stay focused.